Welcome to the Top Business Leaders Show, powered by Rise 25 Media. We feature top founders, executives, and business leaders from all over the world.
Chad Franson here, co-host for this show where we feature top restaurateurs, investors, and business leaders. This is part of our SpotOn series. SpotOn has the best-in-class payment platform for retail, and they have a flagship solution called SpotOn Restaurant, where they combine marketing, software, and payments all in one. They've served everyone from larger chains like Derrick and Subway to small mom and pop restaurants. To learn more, go to SpotOn.com. This episode is brought to you by Rise 25. We help B2B businesses to get ROI, clients, referrals, and strategic partnerships through Done For You podcasts. If you have a B2B business and want to build great relationships with clients, referral partners, and thought leaders in your space, there's no better way to do it than through podcasts and content marketing. To learn more, go to rise25media.com or email us at support@rise25.com. Michael Derrick has been franchising since 1999. He opened and operated some of the most successful Tim Horton franchises in the United States for 18 years and is now a franchise owner of the national brands of Smoothie King and Supercuts. Hey, Michael, thanks for joining me today. How are you?
Good, Chad. How you doing?
Good, thanks. Hey, what got you interested in being a franchisee?
Well, to be honest with you, I was actually in education, had a great career, was in line for 20 years and out, and a great retirement package. And I was bored out of my mind. So I was sitting in my basement office at one of my schools one day and said, God, there's got to be more than this, please. And I was actually doing a personal training business at the time on the side, was one of my hobbies and things I was into. And one of my clients became a really good friend of mine. And turned out he worked for this small, in the time, fledgling donut company in Buffalo, New York, called Tim Hortons. And we were out hanging out one night and we were talking about business. And I said how I love business and wanted to probably get into that more in my life. And he's like, hey, why don't we get into business together? And I was like, really? What do you think we should do? He's like, oh, I think we should, get into this brand that I'm with right now. He goes, it's going to explode in the next, 5 years here in this area. And I said, well, what brand is that? And he's like, Tim Hortons. I go, what's that? And he's like, well, why don't you go check one out? So I ended up going to a Tim Hortons that just opened up around the corner. It was a corporate store. And I walked in and I'm like, donuts and coffee. Are you kidding me? And I, here I'm the health nut and everything. And I'm like, how do I align that with my life? And so, we sat down, talked the numbers and, saw what it was doing in Canada and said, you know what, this is going to be a great opportunity. So we sat down with the company, tried to make a deal to get some corporate stores. They unfortunately weren't too happy about losing him from their management team. So they sweetened the deal to keep him. And then they said they would take care of me, which they did. And within a few months, I ended up getting my first location. 30 days later, they offered me an existing store. And then 2 years after that, I opened up another location. And then upwards of about 6 locations we had together, very successful. They had a lot of ups and downs at times, but, it was that first 2-3 years of just really, digging the ground and plowing, that we ended up in about that third year really, really taking off. And we ended up having 2 of my locations within about 1.75 miles of each other that were and ended up being on the list of only about 8 stores in the US at the time that were doing over 2 million in sales. So we did pretty good. We had 2 out of those 8 and had a pretty good ride for about 20 years there.
Wow, that is awesome. And you haven't been bored out of your mind?
Oh, no, it was exactly what I needed because I'm a multitasker and it kept me on my toes. That's for sure. Sometimes too much.
What is it about franchising that's so appealing? I mean, being a franchisee or being a franchise owner that's so appealing to you?
For me, I'm a structure guy and I like operations. And when you have a really detailed, structured operations that's proven to be successful, I buy into it 100% of the time. And, the brand had just a amazing structure that, from beginning to end, from the time I went into training to the time I came out, it was just they dotted their I's, crossed their T's, and I really love that. And so, I got to do what I loved, which was the day-to-day interactions with the customers. I got to, work with my staff. I didn't have to worry about marketing, advertising. Like, we had our meetings and things like that, but the brand was in charge of all of that, and they looked to me just to be that hands-on guy, right there in the community, the local guy, building the brand and really exposing it and doing a great job day to day, executing.
So there was no mystery when you got in as to how to be successful. Basically, they kind of had the processes lined out.
Yeah, they pretty much said, here's our operations manual. We're going to train you in every aspect of this. Do what it says and follow the guidelines, and you will be successful. And I mean, I was just implementing it, letter of the law, right through the time that we started. It was amazing because when we opened the first location, they walked in, the corporate guys were all excited because, we had the highest US sales ever for a new store that opened in the United States when I opened my first location. And they were like, what did you do? What did you do? And they walked in and they're like, wow, this store seems like it's been here for like years. They said, it operates just like an existing, store that is pretty much like a corporate run store. And I said, yeah, because one of the things that I got to do was my store got delayed and about 6 months from opening. So during that period of time, I had left my job in education. I had no income coming in, and I was like, guys, what do I do? And the management team said, you know what? We've got corporate stores. We'll put you to work in a corporate store. So when I came out of training, I went into a corporate store and I learned all their ways of doing things. And so that really advanced my skill level to the point where when I walked into my own location, I knew exactly what to do. Most people's, learning curve is about 1.5 years with Tim Hortons. Mine ended up being about 6 months because of what happened.
Yeah. Wow. Where was your first location?
It was in Cheektowaga, New York, right near the Buffalo International Airport, near Galleria Mall, that kind of area.
So what was the first day of being open like? Apparently it was apparently different than other people's first days.
Yeah, it was very smooth. Back then they had a training team that would come in, work with the staff. I already had my staff hired. I actually was blessed because we ended up having 2 Dunkin' Donuts around us that shut down the moment that we opened up. They knew that once Tim Hortons came, they were done. And so we ended up taking on a lot of their employees. So I got some of their really good bakers. So yeah, at the time it was a lot of experienced people there. And I remember our first customer coming through and, was so excited for that guy that came through the drive-through that day. And yeah, it was a great day. Just very smooth running, had the donuts up on the shelf by the time they were supposed to be there, and, just served coffee and donuts all day and had a great week.
Was there ever a mistake or a pitfall or something that you ended up being a great learning experience for you moving forward?
Yeah, the biggest thing that I learned was not to take on too much too quick. And I think the biggest strategic mistake that I made was taking on that store that they offered me 30 days after I opened up my new one. And because with that also came a mobile operations business where we were supplying donuts to like three or four different gas station locations. And it was a lot to take on. And the problem is I ended up going and hiring one of their corporate managers who came in. And, corporate managers, they're not the same as franchisees. And so they acted corporately what was in it for them as opposed what was, in it for the franchise and for the company. And they were more focused on themselves and having fun. And I get that. That's fine. Great to have fun in your work environment, but you got to stay focused on growing a new business. And so what happened is that manager allowed things to dwindle. My other business that I took on, I had to go and spend all my time there. So I left my baby and, I saw that actually dropping in sales. So I had to let that manager go back in, take over that operation. And thankfully I did that because that really caused things to turn around quickly. And we ended up growing, very rapidly. But yeah, I would definitely say is don't take on too much too quick, especially when you start a new franchise. Really focused, at least stay there at least a year to really dig in, get your customer base, get your employees trained properly. I invested in the next manager that I had that I promoted from within. I spent about 2.5 years training him and staying on top of him till he learned every aspect of the business and could operate it successfully. And then I had him for another 13 years after that. So,
wow. What would you say then would be the key to kind of successfully operating multiple locations like you ended up doing?
Structure. You really got to create a structure of management team and employees. So what I always would do is before I would move into the next location, I would rapidly hire more people, and I would groom my management team from within. I very rarely went outside of it. I did do that once and was very successful. Got a manager who's actually still there with my former partner who I sold the business to. But yeah, I mean, you really need to groom those people and train them in your philosophy. Because a lot of times, when I came out of corporate and, their training and their philosophies and came into the franchise, so I brought all that with me. But a lot of times people don't have that, or they're not really, as focused on that. And so all of the operations that I learned corporately, I've instituted those with my team. So my team was very used to doing those things, so that when we transferred them and promoted them to the next situation, the next opening, new location, we would then transfer that, all the skill sets, everything we've trained them with, that would go, and then that would then get groomed with the next team. So I really felt like, training key positions in the organization. So from your bakers to your customer service reps to your management and supervisors, you basically, you build that up within your main training. I call it my training store, and then you move them out to the next opportunities. And so that's what really helped us.
Great. What made you decide to move on then from Tim Hortons?
Tim Hortons through the years, I mean, when I first came in, they had merged with Wendy's, and it was a great, family kind of environment. They were very, very similar. It was like, everybody knew everybody. You got together for meetings. I mean, and it just was this great camaraderie that we had. And then something happened, and then they decided to break away from Wendy's because Wendy's wasn't growing. It was Tim Hortons growing. So they broke away. We became a private company again. It was great. It was amazing. We went back to, just family structure. Everybody knew everybody. They really cared about the franchisees. The franchise, or was really focused. They said, if we take care of the franchisees will take care of us. Well, they did say, that there was the possibility that an equity firm had been buying up some of our shares and stuff, and that there could be a hostile takeover, but they were doing everything they could to prevent that. Well, about 2016, I believe, a company out of South America came in and basically did a takeover of Tim Hortons, and it was not good. Initially it was okay. They met with us. They said, "Oh, you know what? We're going to keep everything the same as it was. Success is great. We're not going to make any changes and all this kind of stuff." Well, what they did was they came in, they didn't make any changes to the franchise for like a year, but they wreaked havoc at corporate, and they took away all of our, consultants, all the people that we relied on. Before you knew it, it just seemed like there was chaos there, while they were basically cutting away and trying to increase the bottom line, so that they could make their shareholders happy and their upper level management so they could line their pockets. Well, then from there, about a year to a year and a half later, they started doing things behind the scenes that started affecting us. Now, I had profitability that was very off the charts compared to a lot of the other franchisees. We averaged, for Tim Hortons, 17 to 20% in profitability. Well, we saw our profitability quickly drop to 7.5%. because of things that they were doing behind the scenes. And this is where I really found out where the franchisor makes its money. And a lot of it is the backdoor goods. They changed a lot of that. They upped the prices of things. So for example, if I get a box of cream locally, I could get a box of 18% cream for $17 a box. They were charging us $27. So things like that were very dirty and underhanded that they did. They at the time had control over our pricing, so we couldn't, up our prices, and our labor was going up. And so it was like this just horrible tsunami that took place. And at that point, it got to December of 2017, and I'm looking at my bank account and I'm like, oh my God, we're gonna have to put some money into this thing to keep it afloat. And my partner I had taken on at the time said to me, look, if you it's like, we have to do something to keep this thing going. And I said, well, and the other thing that contributed to that was we had done 2 remodels that cost me $350,000 a piece, which were very expensive. And so we were paying a note that we weren't paying before. Well, then it got to that place where I had to make a decision. Like, am I going to go back to work as a manager in my own company, running day-to-day operations, or am I going to do something else and cash out? So, at that point, she didn't want to sell out, and I kind of felt like it was maybe time to do something new. And so, we made deals, and I decided to step out of the company at that time. And she hung in there, and it was pretty much a one partner business. And it took a couple years, and it took a lot of problems at corporate and franchise, a lot of friction. They established a franchise association and kind of went to war with each other. And thankfully I wasn't there for that, but from what I understand, things have gotten better. But yeah, it was quite a trying time, let me tell you.
Yeah, wow, sounds like it. So you have since gotten involved as a franchisee with both Supercuts and Smoothie King. Which one came first?
Supercuts. So when I
a little different
parted ways,
to that.
Yeah, so I parted ways with Tim's, and I met up with a franchise broker, and I said, look, I'm not interested in doing anything from ground up. I want to buy some existing businesses. What do you have available out there? So he came to me, and I said, hey, look, I got a great opportunity. Looks like a brand called Supercuts is going to be going from corporate to a full franchise structure. And I said, oh, and they said they have a package of, corporate stores that they would like to sell. And I said, oh, okay, well, let me look at this company. I said, the last thing I want to do is get involved with another, situation like I was with Tim's. I said, I want to find another, family oriented, like, really close knit company. So I went to Discovery Day out of Minneapolis, Minnesota, met the management team, really, really was like, wow, this reminds me of 99 when I first got with Tim's. And, they wined you, they dined you, they cared about you and all this. And I said, well, this sounds like a great company. So I purchased my first package of 5 stores, was going to do more, had some personal family things that were going on at the time that precluded me from doing that. But I took on the 5, and it was, a major learning curve. But the good thing is that I didn't have to worry about cutting hair. I just had to know how to manage a business. And so I took my administrative management skills to Supercuts and was able to, over the course of since 2018 to where we are today, have a very, very successful structure going on. Company. We're doing very well. I've got the top 25 store in the nation. And then on top of that, our other stores, through the pandemic, through everything that we've had to deal with, we've stayed in a plus 5 to 30% growth rate through this whole time. So it's, I attribute it to my team. I've got an amazing group of stylists and management that love what they do every day. They love the people, and I love them. I mean, so it's great. We just a good culture we've got going on that sustained us.
Sure. What are some of the primary differences in terms of managing or operating those kinds of stores as opposed to the stores you were operating before? And also, do you face the same staffing challenges that maybe people in the restaurant industry have faced over the past few years?
Yeah. So, I don't think we've faced the same difficulties per se in our communities where we're located as a lot of the other restaurants have in inner cities and things. We're more in the country suburbs area, away from the city, kind of focus. So I don't think we've had that kind of issue. We had to shut down for a period of time, while they were figuring things out. But I mean, aside from that, I think that was about the only major difficulty we had. But as far as the major difference between the restaurant, Tim Hortons kind of business, and this is that was a 24-hour a day operation, 7 days a week. This business, when I started, I took it over, was 7 days a week, but it was only about eight to 10. Let's say we opened at 8, 9 o'clock till about 8 at night. So about 12-hour shifts. And so we closed that night. So there was that whole overnight component was gone. And, the stress of that, like we're very busy, and don't get me wrong, but, we don't see 10,000 customers a week like I used to. We see about, depending on the store, 500, 600 customers a week. So, it's different. And more, we can do more too, but, overall, the stress level is much lower. You're only dealing with, maybe maximum, 10 employees per location, where before I had 32, I average at a location, between full and part-time employees. So yeah, I mean, there's a major difference there, in structure wise, but, the other thing too is food and paper. Like we don't have to carry the inventory and the levels that we had before. So there wasn't a lot of that management of food and paper costs and things and products. With us, we do have products, we have colors and different treatments and things and shampoos and things that we sell. So, but it's much more manageable, and, the volumes are very good. They're not as high as what I was with Tim's, but then again, I'm not paying as much as I was. So, royalties, rent, all those costs have come down. I'm actually responsible for, my own leases now. So I negotiate all those, whereas Tim's used to be the ones that negotiated that. And then they propped it up and then charged us more money on the end. So they made more money. So a lot of that's been eliminated. And also remodeling and costs are much less than what I had to deal with Tim Hortons, very much lower. So there's a lot of advantages there. And I'm really, and the other good thing about it too, is you have the ability to manage these, from any location. So I don't have to necessarily live within 20 minutes of my stores like I used to with Tim's. These stores now, I live in Florida, so I have New York locations, and I'm opening some potential sites here in Florida too. But I don't have to live right where they are. That's the nice thing about it. So there is a lot of differences, and I would say a lot of positive differences.
Yeah, you're also now involved with Smoothie King. What drew you to becoming a franchisee with them?
Yeah, so I felt like from the pandemic, I needed to diversify my holdings. And so, I got other businesses that I do too, but I was kind of looking for something that aligned with my core values. And I'm very big into health and nutrition, and, Tim Hortons never really lined up with that. I mean, they started to get into more healthy menu items, but I wanted something that was like different. And so when I was spending some time in Jacksonville, North Carolina, I started going to this place called Smoothie King, and a friend of mine introduced me to it, and I was like, wow, these are really great smoothies. And so I really liked them. And then I found out that a majority of the product that they serve is organic, is all natural. It doesn't have the added chemicals, doesn't have sugars added unless, you get a specialized, weight gainer type product. But they've removed all the added sugars and all these things. So I, was like, wow, this is pretty amazing. It's really something that interests me. So I studied it a little bit more. And then I started calling some of my friends who are brokers, and they said, yeah, we can't get you information on Smoothie King because they do everything from the corporate level. So they don't hire brokers or any of that kind of stuff. So I was like, oh, okay, interesting. So I contacted Smoothie King corporate, and then met with their franchise consultant rep who, helps people get franchises, and they invited me to a discovery day. I met their ops team, met their, management team, and was like really, really impressed again with the management team. They very focused on growth, but also very focused on franchisee and profitability of the franchisee. And what they're doing from a core level is, they care about the customers. They care about people's health and wellness and nutrition. And, it's just something that I just really, really related to. And so, I jumped in, and so it's just been, I think, coming out of the pandemic, just working with some of these landlords and things to establish leases has been, a little on the difficult side. Plus, we've had this crazy expansion of growth here in Florida. So with that being said, it's kind of like this perfect storm for, having issues with getting sites located, but things are starting to pick up now. I just in the process of signing a drive-through lease. So yeah, I'm really excited about, getting my first shop up and running here.
I know one of the things you thought was, very, very nice about Tim Hortons was they had all sorts of processes in place that were very easy to make you successful. Did these two, Supercuts and Smoothie King, have the same processes in place, or did you bring what you learned from Tim Hortons along with you?
Yeah. So, I mean, I brought a lot of obviously what I've learned from the past, my past success and things, but, and past failures too. I mean, there's been times where things didn't work out and I learned a lot from that. But I think with, the transitioning from Tim Hortons to Supercuts, they did have a really great process. So they had, a process whereby it was about a 6-month process, 3 to 6 months, where they take you step by step through the transition. Back then it was from corporate to franchise. So how do you, navigate that transition? So, that included training. I had to go to Minnesota for a week of training, which was different from Tim's, because Tim Hortons was actually like 6 weeks of training. Mm-hmm. So that was a great change, getting everything done in a week. And then coming back, I had a process by which to acquire each salon. So all the steps that were needed to get it done. They walked me right through the process. It was great. It was really great from the management level. So yeah, I mean, things were different, but I think in a much better way, more concise. But it was, there wasn't as much to learn as there was with, Tim Hortons. I mean, it was just, we had such an expansive menu. So, coming into this was a nice change of pace. And then takeover was, was great. It went really smooth. Again, with everything I had already in place, and the experience I had, the staff was very comfortable with me right off the bat. We did lose a couple people, just because they weren't happy about, change from corporate to franchise. They just didn't understand it. And, they weren't being patient with the process. So, but it was okay, because the team that we did have became our core, and then we've built from there. So yeah, it's been a different pace. We did go through a transition with Supercuts, which was really crazy, because literally a year after I transitioned to Supercuts, the management team, for the most part, was let go. And the people that they hired that came in were actually the management team from Tim Hortons that came in. They got fired from Tim Hortons or whatever, let go, and then they got hired by, Supercuts franchise division to take over for whatever reason. And these guys came with the same philosophy that, they had at Tim Hortons, which was, if you don't like what we're doing, get the hell out. We'll buy, you can sell your stores. And it was like, oh my gosh, well, the franchisees at Supercuts were much more formed together with their franchise association, and they just weren't going to take that kind of thing. And they stood up to the company, and literally within probably 6 months, those guys were fired. And so now we've got a really great management team in there. They're working hard, they're cooperating and working with us, and it's a nice change of pace again. So I got a little worried that I was going to have to exit.
Nice. Well, I'm glad that's working out. What is you mentioned the difference between franchise and corporate. What's kind of the biggest mindset change that people have to have when they go from, let's say, corporate to franchise?
I think it's the hands-on. Franchisees are very hands-on. It's their baby. So you want to take care of your baby and make sure, it's functioning properly. And for me, there's certain aspects of the business that I really focus on, especially as I'm growing it. And a lot of it has to do with cash management, has to do with transactions, daily sales, and growth. So, when I am analyzing on a day-to-day basis, I mean, I'm in touch with my management team daily. I've got reports that I have generated that come to me 5:30 in the morning that I'm looking at. So I keep a handle on things, because in franchise, corporate has deep pockets. You know what I mean? They've got millions and millions of dollars in the bank. They're not worried about losing a few $100,000 here and there. You know what I mean? So me, that's devastating. You know what I mean? So I have to watch every detail of the business. And so, the reports that I get help me to highlight, I'll just give you an example. If cash shortages, for some reason, like corporate, like when I talked to, my management team, I said, did corporate ever, talk to you guys about these things and watch this stuff they're like, no, we were on the island. That's what they called it. They were on the island, Gilligan's, basically all by themselves. And so, literally me coming in and keeping an eye on these things and talking and chatting with them. Like I coach them. I don't micromanage them. I coach them. And so what they found is, they weren't used to that. And so the ones who weren't used to it, they wanted that freedom to do whatever they want to do when they want to do it. That doesn't work with me. And so it might have worked with corporate, but it doesn't work with me. And so, I want to work with them, because I know that when we work together, it's going to not only benefit them, but it's going to benefit us in the company. So, corporate, I think a lot of times they're in their high offices in, let's say Minnesota, and they're not as in touch with the day-to-day of what's happening in the salons. They're analyzing their metrics and things, but, and then what they do is they have this top-down approach that then goes to the next level if there's an issue. So then that person, by the time it gets to them and gets to the company, to the store, I mean, there's a lot of time that lapses. So with me, they've noticed like immediately when there's some issue, they need something, it's like almost immediate. If something's broken, we get it fixed. Like before, they would have to put in a request to get something fixed. It took forever. So they really like that approach. They had to get used to it. So that took a little bit, and now they're seeing that this is really beneficial to them. They can get things done because I'm very responsive very quickly.
I have one more question for you, but first, tell me how people can find out more about what you have going on with Supercuts and Smoothie King.
If they wanted to contact me directly, you're talking about?
Sure. Or I guess you probably just have the regular websites, the smoothieking.com.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really promote myself in a sense like that. I mean, I'm on social media and things like that. But I'm on LinkedIn. People can contact me through LinkedIn if they're interested. But yeah, I mean, right now, if people are interested in Smoothie King or they're interested in Supercuts, the brands, you can go to the corporate websites and get more information. And as a franchisee, we have a franchise disclosure document, and I'm in that. So my phone numbers are listed. So if you ever wanted to chat, I'm always try to be very helpful because, when I came into the business, a lot of the franchisees were willing to talk to me and share the ins and outs, the ups and downs, the good, the bad, the ugly, with me. And I love that. I appreciate that. And I'm the same way. I don't want to see people come into a business, because I've done it before. I've gotten into franchises that, were very, didn't have a lot of information, a lot of disclosure going on. And I really feel it's important to get the proper disclosure, and I'm available for that. So yeah, anytime, contact me through LinkedIn. That's the best way to get a hold of me, and would love to, encourage someone to, either get into the business or find another business that, meets and suits their needs. Sounds
good. Hey, final question for you. When you go to Smoothie King as a customer, what's your go-to item of choice?
So I am an avid, I like the 32 ounce. We just came out with some new power smoothie lines that I'm getting excited to go and try. But like my favorite, is the blueberry strawberry activator. I love that. And then, we've got these add-ons that we can put into them. So I like to, if it's a training day, I like to get my blueberry strawberry activator with my creatine. If it's my off day, I like to get my blueberry strawberry activator with my Diet Down, which helps me to stay lean and fit. So yeah, we have so many different ones, but that's my go-to.
What's an activator? Is that like to get you going, like a boost for the day or something?
Yeah, so it's actually like a meal replacement. It has protein in it, fiber. It's got like the right levels of ingredients that will help you to be ready for a workout, like to help you from a workout, as far as to reactivate you from the workout or to get you ready to go into a workout. So, I wouldn't drink 32 ounces, like, probably 5 minutes before I work out, but like within an hour before, it's fine, that kind of thing. But yeah, it'll power you right through your workout and or help you to recover from it.
Okay, awesome. Hey, Michael, It's been great talking to you today. Thank you so much for joining me.
Yeah, hey, thanks for having me. Appreciate you.
So long, everybody.
Thanks for listening to the Top Business Leaders Show, powered by Rise 25. Visit rise25.com to check out more episodes of the show and to learn more about how you can start your own podcast.